Okay, let's start. I hope that you can hear me and see me. My name is Pogorelova Olga Anatolievna. I am teacher of English and Global Perspectives at Nazarbayev Intellectual School. And the topic of our today's webinar is improving learning and literacy outcomes. And we are going to talk about the strategies for success, but not strategies in teaching, but more of the opportunities for developing the literacy of our students and increase the outcomes or improve the outcomes of what we are doing in class. Okay, so while I'm going to start talking about the key terminology for our today's webinar, please in the chat, I would like you to answer the following question. What factors impact the learning outcomes and literacy of the students? Okay, so please send your ideas for now and we'll see how many of them are similar to mine and which of them are different. Okay, and you'll have another question a little later. So the webinar objectives for today are as follows. We are going to explore the strategies and techniques to enhance learning and literacy for all, meaning for both students and teachers themselves. Okay, and while I'm talking about this terminology, I want you to answer the second question as well. How can teacher development using technology, teaching approaches, and community impact the outcomes of teaching? Because we are not just talking about in-class learning, but we are talking about the process overall. Okay. So the importance of learning and literacy is very high. These two factors improve or empower the individuals to succeed in education, career, and life. The more our students know and the more things they can do, the better they become and the more active specialists they become in their future life. And learning outcomes and literacy are fundamental, of course, for personal development and societal progress, which means that only if our learners are developing, they can become successful specialists, and then later in their life, they can contribute to the development of our community. So when we talk about literacy, literacy outcomes consider the ability to read, write, and comprehend information effectively, which means that our learners should be able to perceive the information successfully, to process it, and to share that or to disseminate the information with other professionals and with other community members. And learning outcomes are what the students are expected to know and be able to do. So these two terms, learning outcomes and literacy outcomes, are closely knitted together. In order to develop the students' literacy and their abilities, teachers do lots of various things, but all of them share their experience of undergoing or experiencing some challenges, which could be as follows. So despite the importance of achieving desired outcomes can be challenging because factors such as socioeconomic status, language barriers, and learning disabilities can impact the outcomes, which means that sometimes our learners come from underprivileged families. They experience some difficulties like not having enough time, or they might have a young child in their family, so they need to help their moms and dads to take care of the child. So all of those can make a change in how successfully our learners study and how knowledgeable they become. When it comes to the classroom management, there are lots of factors that contribute to that, but classroom management is one of the crucial things that contributes to how effective our lessons are. When we talk about classroom management, many people think of very simple, basic things like coming to class, sitting at the desks, and completing the tasks. But in real life, the classroom management includes a lot more other things, such as establishing the rules and expectations. Our learners should be aware of what is expected of them, what they need to be doing, how they should be doing that. We need to manage the students' behavior, which is different to number one, because we need to establish some routines, like the learners might clean the board. In fact, in some schools, it is not welcomed, but the learners should have some discipline, should have some routine work that they should be able to accomplish. Then we need to organize the physical environment, which means that we need to have posters, we need to display the students' work, we need to have a word wall, so to make the new word revision more accessible for the learners and easy for them. We need to arrange the seating, which means that we can put the tables in for individual work. We can organize them in peer work or in group work. So we should be aware of different interaction patterns, and we need to consider which one is the dominant for the lesson. Then we have planning and delivering instruction. And instructions are also very important. Unless our learners understand how to complete a task, which directly depends on how well we instruct them for doing that, they will or will not be able to complete the task. And then when giving the instructions, we need to be aware of the order of our own actions. We need to arrange the interaction pattern first, group or regroup the learners. Then we need to instruct our learners. Then we need to check the instructions, the understanding of the instructions. If our learners cannot explain what they are expected to do, what they have been instructed to do, they will not be able to complete the task. So we need to ask some questions. They are called instruction checking questions, or ICQs. You are highly likely to have already heard about that. So if you want, I can explain, but I think that we can move on. Please send your questions in the chat and we'll return back to them if necessary. So then after instructing and checking the instructions, we need to give handouts. And that should be the last stage of in our actions before we set up an activity, because the minute you give your learners the papers, the actual papers, they start looking into their papers and they will not pay attention to you talking or explaining anything to them. So after that, comes the next factor, which is promoting student engagement. And there should be minimum teacher talking time during the lesson and maximum student engagement. The students should be the main doers, the main action takers, and we are only there to facilitate their studies and to support them when needed. Maybe giving some questions, giving some support, scaffolding the process, but not interfering a lot. Okay, so then we have providing support and guidance, which I have already explained. We also have establishing routines and procedures. So I do believe that all of you know the sequence of different activities arranging the receptive skills lessons or productive skills lessons. We should also have the routine of checking the home task, of evaluating the student work, providing them error correction time, giving them some feedback on their work and collecting feedback or reflection from them on what has been happening in the classroom. Then we have assessing students' progress, which I have also included in the previous one. Building positive relationships, and here there are numerous ways of doing that. We need to incorporate some small talk at the beginning of the lesson, or maybe during the breaks. So we need to know about who our learners are, what they are interested in, and all of those factors contribute to how well our students interact with us and how ready or how eagerly they work in the lessons. And the last one is our own professional development. Some teachers don't think these are interconnected, but in fact, the practice has confirmed, the research has confirmed that they are very interconnected. Because if we consider how we develop, then we can understand that we develop in all the directions which have been mentioned above. Like we improve our instructions, we learn different approaches to teaching, we support the students in various ways, we might plan the differentiated outcomes for the lesson, or we might differentiate by the final product of the students' actions, right? So all of that really depends on how professional developed we are. And then if we think about the qualities which are required for effective classroom management, then we can talk about patience and consistency, flexibility, organization of ourselves, of our action, having enough time to mark the students' papers, to prepare for the lesson, to cover each stage of the lesson. So being organized overall, bringing everything that is needed for the lesson itself. Then we have communication skills, empathy, assertiveness. So we need to be very positive about about our expectations from students. We should believe that our students are able to achieve a lot more than where they are. And we should be able to plan the zone of proximal development for the students well, right? Then we have creativity, which means that all teachers should be creative in what they're doing, because it directly affects the student engagement. And then we have problem-solving skills. So we should be able to deal with lots of situations within the class, because we are working with human beings, and sometimes they have conflicts with each other, sometimes they come in bad mood, sometimes they don't feel well. So we should be able to be flexible and be creative and solve the problems when we face them. And of course, we need a lot of reflectiveness on our own practice, and we need to develop that in our students so that they are able to track their progress and to reflect on what they are doing, how successful that is, to reflect on how they study the best, which strategies work for them, which strategies don't really work for them. So all of those are interconnected. And then there has been a research done on the qualities required for effective development and the qualities which are recognized by the learners as the qualities of a good leader. And if we look at the two of a good teacher, sorry. If we look at the two lists, we can see that lots of factors are repeated in both lists, which means that effective classroom management turns a teacher from just a teacher to a good teacher. And then later, if we compare the list of the qualities of a good teacher with the qualities of a good leader, we can see that they are overlap as well. And all the qualities here can be subdivided into personal and professional, and some of them refer to both spheres of our life, such as adaptability. So we need to be flexible and adaptable as people, and we need to apply that to our own teaching practice as well. So we should be good, or we should have good organizational skills. We should be able to organize our own time and ourselves, and we should be able to organize the classroom time and our learners. And then we have some other factors which you can see on the Venn diagram, that the spheres in our life, our personal and our professional development overlap a lot. So, and as I said, if we compare the qualities of a good teacher and a good leader, there are lots of similarities here as well. So a good leader should be visionary, and we said that a good teacher should be assertive, should be able to set up the goals and support the learners, should be very positive about that. So this is one of the examples how they overlap. But in fact, if we continue, like we have empathy is number 5 in both lists. And then we have adaptability on the list and all other things. And for instance, we have number 8, which is organizational skills for a good teacher. And then we have team building as a quality of a good leader. So all teachers are leaders in their class, and depending on their personal and professional development, they become better teachers and they become better leaders, which directly, as we said, has a strong impact on the literacy outcomes. We are going to move on to some effective strategies in teaching. And those include active learning. As we said, the students should be actively engaged. They should have some hands-on activities or hands-on experience, discussions. So they should be involved. They should be able to acquire the knowledge or to retrieve the information from various sources. We should also have differentiated instructions, tailoring our methods to meet the individual needs. And that's when we talked about our students' development, our students' needs, building small talk, creating positive environment of working with them, etc. Okay, so here we have some examples of strategies. This is definitely not a full list, but these are some of the things which can help to increase the efficiency of teaching in class. It includes inquiry-based learning, which means that we need to foster critical thinking and problem-solving skills through engaging the students, through exploring the information. Remember that we said as teachers, we need to think critically ourselves, and we need to develop those skills in our learners as well. So then we have task-based learning, or TBL approach, which focuses on getting the students to do some specific tasks as the primary learning objective. And then based on how successfully they do that, we might teach more or less information to them. And then the lesson might focus on teaching vocabulary or teaching grammar or some other aspects of that. Okay. So then we have project-based learning, which is slightly different to task-based learning. And project-based learning means the way of teaching when students gain knowledge working on over an extended period, on investigating and responding to a question or problem or challenge. So for instance, in task-based learning, you might tell your students that you need to create a dialogue at a restaurant, right? And then you are a customer, you are a waiter or waitress, so you need to create this dialogue. And then you'll see how many words they know in that, how well they can use the functional language, what grammar rules they can apply there, etc. In project-based learning, you might say, okay, so we are going to run a project, we are going to open our own restaurant, and the two of you are going to buy everything that is required for the restaurant, like all the furniture. Two of you are going to buy some products like vegetables and fruit. So you need to decide what and how we are going to cook, working with the chef. And then you assign a person to be a chef. You assign several people to be cooks there. And you assign a few people to be customers so that by the time other students plan how they want to arrange everything for the restaurant, the customers can come and evaluate how successful the restaurant has been. Or you might, instead of asking them to be a customer, you might want to ask them to become a Michelin evaluator. So the person comes and evaluates the quality of the food at the restaurant and gives some stars to the restaurant. So that would be a project-based learning rather than task-based learning. And of course, different strategies to make the learning approaches effective. And those strategies should be incorporated as well. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about is cooperative learning. And please, that is explained as encouraging collaboration among students to achieve common goals. And please pay attention here that collaboration is not equal to interaction patterns. Interaction patterns include individual work, peer work, group work, but collaboration requires working together over an extended period of time to achieve the common goals. Even when we are doing individual work, we might give some time to our learners to work on the task themselves, then ask them to pair and compare the answers or to share their ideas, and then report back to the class, which is a think, pair, share strategy. So in that case, collaboration will be taking place in all the different interaction patterns. Another example of collaboration is peer assessment or peer evaluation, when students complete their tasks separately, but then they swap their papers or swap their tasks and they evaluate each other. Or somebody might give a speech in front of the class and there will be people sitting in class and evaluating his or her speech. Another example of collaboration or cooperation in class could be Toastmasters for developing the oral fluency and accuracy, right? When one person is talking and then there is a grammarian who evaluates how correct the speech is. which, well, in most cases, that person is usually a teacher, because I have not seen many cases when students are able to correct their grammar themselves. There is a person who evaluates the ideas, a person who evaluates the structure of the argument, whether the argument is explained, from some examples are provided for that, etc. So different people have different functions, but all of them provide feedback to the speaker in order to help him or her improve the speech. So those are different examples of using different interaction patterns for the same goal of collaboration. And another way or another approach to increasing the learner outcomes and literacy are utilizing the technology. So the interactive whiteboard should not be just a way to display what we are talking about, display some instructions and tasks, but we need to be able to use technology to enhance the process of teaching. And here are some ideas of how those can be involved. Educational apps. We can use online resources to assist the classroom materials that we are provided, to combine that with the course book that we have, right? Using different digital platforms like British Council, American Voice, and other platforms where we can retrieve the materials and work with the authentic materials, giving them to learners and making our teaching more sensible for students. Here we have some more specific examples of technology integration, but that's again not a full list. So we might want to organize virtual field trips, and field trips in this case could be going to museums, visiting concerts, going to theater online, visiting a site, for instance, Stonehenge, and talking about its history, right? So nowadays, with the development of technology, that is already possible. As I said, using interactive whiteboards, facilitating dynamic classroom presentation activities. Quite often, I observe teachers, my colleagues, and teachers from other schools in different workshops, and interactive whiteboards are often used to display what the teacher is saying and nothing else. Just ask your learner to stand up and come up to the board and write his or her answer and take turns. So in this case, this activity might be used as a stirrer to boost energy in your class, right? To wake up your learners, etc. So instead, we have integrating artificial intelligence. Some teachers might say that it's not very smart to integrate the use of artificial intelligence, but this is our time that dictates on what we need to incorporate and how we need to do that. And instead of fighting against integration of AI, we should learn how to use AI to assist our daily practices, because we don't have English-speaking environment, right? So we need to create lots of opportunities in multiple ways for our learners to practice the language and to interfere with the language, to listen to it, to read in the language, etc. And AI can really, really assist in doing that, because AI can speak, AI can reproduce the human speech, AI can evaluate the paper. For instance, you might want to ask your learner to write a short essay and then upload it to AI and evaluate the quality of the paper, or to identify what grammar and vocabulary errors a student might have made. And please do not forget to write your questions if you have any. And while you're doing that, I'm going to move on to my almost last section of the presentation, which is engaging parents and communities. And that is another resource that is incredibly powerful and that some teachers actually forget about. So involving parents and community plays a vital role, as I have said, in supporting the learning and literacy outcomes. Building partnerships and involving different groups of stakeholders like parents, school administration, friends of our learners themselves. We can enhance the educational outcomes, of course. And here are some strategies for engagement. Parent workshops. Organize a few workshops for them, or talk to your parents during the parents' meeting and explain them how their kids are learning, what they can use to improve their studies. At least talk to them about using Duolingo to learn some new vocabulary, some everyday words, right? It helps a lot, and it helps to increase the outcomes of our studies. Organize some community events like literacy fairs, book drives, or like promote some kind of parent and student activity. Organize some book clubs, or maybe rehearsal of a play where the students and their parents have to take part in, and they have to do that in English. So this will improve their family bonds, and this will also contribute to the quality of language learning.